So welcome back, guys. I have a few things I want to go over from last week. I'm going to take the board here. I want to show you on paper what it looks like when you're changing your f-stop shutter and your ISO, how they relate to each other. So I'll do that in just a second. But I did have a few questions come in that I want to go over real quick. One is, if you have a DSLR, you're looking for Canon EF lenses. If you're shooting Canon mirrorless, you're looking for RF lenses, or you can use EF lenses with an EF to RF adapter, which is a lot cheaper than a lot of the new RF lenses. You can get the 50mm RF, the 16mm RF, the 24mm RF, and even the 85 RF is not too badly priced. I think it's around $500. But other than that, I would stick with EF lenses and get that adapter. You won't notice any loss of quality. It's most of the time when you put an adapter on, you're going to get loss of quality, but not in this case. You won't get any. You won't lose any focus speed. You won't lose any quality. It just works just seamlessly. So the other question I got was, my pictures are blurry, but I've got the red box on the eye. Why is my picture blurry? Well, that's where it's focusing, but you can still get blur. Even if it's nailing the focus, you can still get blur if you have too much action and your shutter speed isn't high enough. So if you're shooting at 1/60th of a second and your kid's running around real fast, they may show in focus, but they're going to be blurry because movement causes blur. So raise up your shutter speed up. Raise it up to 500th of a second. That should be fast enough for a child running. And then you'll notice when the red box goes, I know they're going to be stopped action. So hopefully I made it short this week for you guys. So hopefully this makes some sense on the board that I'm going to show you. And hopefully the EF RF lenses make some sense. And hopefully the box on the eye being blurry is your shutter speed, is a shutter speed problem. So hopefully work on that. And if you guys have any questions, hit me an email at the bottom and I'll be glad to help you out. Hey guys, I just want to take this second of your time. If you guys would please hit like and subscribe, it would go a long ways toward helping our channel and help us keep making these videos. Thank you. Okay, so now let's say you've taken your camera and you've got it, you've done the same thing. You put it back on automatic and it's giving you a 1/250th of a second. And it's giving you a f8. It's giving you an ISO of 400. But this time you want to stop action. You're at a racetrack and you want to stop the cars going by. Well, now you know you need a faster shutter speed. So if we raise this to 1/500th, let's go a little bit higher and go to 1/1000th. That way you're going to get a little more stop action. Well, that's 2 stops we just adjusted. So we just took away 2 stops. So we need to add that somewhere. So let's don't add it to our ISO because 400 is already high enough. So let's drop our f8 down to 5.6 and then drop it down to f4. Now that's 2 stops. This is 2 stops. Now you're going to get the same nice image. It's going to be in perfect exposure, but you're going to be able to get the stop action on 1/1000 at f4 and 400 ISO. Because if you go 1/250th f8 at 400, the 1/250th is not fast enough to stop the action on the cars. So anytime you move one thing, you've got to move something else to make up for it. Once you've got that good exposure, you can go from there and make the changes accordingly. Just got to know what you want to do. In this case, we know we wanted to stop the car, so we know we needed at least 1/1000th of a shutter speed. We dropped that by 2 stops, so we needed to make up for it 2 stops somewhere else. So we brought this down 2 stops. Again, you'll see numbers between here, but don't pay attention to those. You can use those later, but for now, these are full stop increments, so go by that. Okay, so let's say the camera is giving us 1/500th of a second. It's giving us f8, and it's giving us an ISO of 800. But we want to get a blurry background. So we know that we need our f-stop down low to get that blurry background. So if we take that down to 5.6 and then to 4, then to 2.8, which is what will get us our blurry background, then we have just added 3 stops of light to this image. So now we've got to subtract 3 stops somewhere else. So we can take this down to 400, and then we can take it down to 200, and then we can take this to 1/1000th of a second. So this adds 3 stops. This takes away 2 stops. This takes away 1 stop. So now we still have the same exposure as we had at 1/500, f8 at 800, as we do at 1/1000th of a second, f2.8, and ISO 200. So the nice exposure we had up here, we're still going to have the nice exposure down here. We just adjusted it because we know we want a blurry background behind, say, the flower we're shooting pictures of. We still got the same perfect exposure. We just adjusted for creativeness. We just adjusted our f-stop. We changed it 3 stops lower to get to 2.8. But when you make one change, you have to change something else. So like I said, we added 3 stops of light here. We deducted 2 stops of light here, and we deducted 1 stop of light here. 1/1000th lets in half as much light as 1/500th. 400 is half as much as 800, and 200 is half as much as 400. So that's -3. This is +3, so our exposure is straight back on. So now we've got a nice shot for our nice blurry image. Now let's say you've got a picture where you want everything in focus. And let's say the camera is giving you 1/500th of a second. It's giving you f5.6, and it's giving you an ISO of f400. Well, we want everything in focus, so what do we need? We know we need a higher f-stop. So let's take that to 8, and then let's go to 11. So that's 2 stops that we need. We need to make up for 2 stops somewhere. Where can we do that? We can drop this down to 1/250th of a second, and then we can drop, I would say drop this one down to 1/25th of a second. So we've got 2 stops taken away here. We added the 2 stops back here. So now F11 will give us everything in focus. So we don't have to worry about that. But we got that information based on what the camera gave us and what was a decent exposure. If that's a decent exposure, then taking away 2 stops, or adding 2 stops here and taking away 2 stops here is still going to give us that same exposure, because we're keeping the same amount of light coming in the camera. We're just doing it through different ways. So hopefully me writing that down makes a little more sense. If not, contact me through my email at the bottom. I'll be glad to help you out. If we're helping you guys out, y'all hit that subscribe button. Thanks.